Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. Well, hello, beautiful friends in YouTube land. Thank you for joining me for this very special Astro Weather Report where we're looking at the eclipse at 27 degrees of Taurus on the 19th of November. 19th of November here in Australia. You can check the description box below to find out when and what time it's occurring in your part of the world. So a big welcome to everyone. Excuse my puffy face. It's hay fever season here and I've been in a state of constant streaming eyes for the last 2 weeks. I've dosed myself up very heavily on medication to be able to do this video for you. And yeah, thanks for joining me. Thank you also for all the words of encouragement that I've been receiving from people lately. It means the world to me to receive your messages of kindness and encouragement and upliftment. I am so grateful. It is growing increasingly difficult to tune into the higher vibration and live life in love and joy, especially here in Australia right now. But this is a spiritual war that we are in, people. It's a spiritual war that's unfolding and we need to support one another. We need to give each other as much love and backing as we possibly can if we are to get through this, to keep our vibration high and to win the spiritual war. So in that light, I just want to encourage people before we get into this video, I want to encourage people to reach out and help one another where possible. Buy from local producers, not the conglomerates, not the big organizations who are growing fatter and fatter and richer throughout the last 2 years of this pandemic. Don't support them. Support the small businesses, the independent farmers or the independent grocers. That's never been more imperative than now. It's something I believe in, 100% of the time anyway, but more so now than ever. So I'm just giving you some strategies for how to work through this time and help one another, support one another, encourage one another. Encourage and support people who've lost jobs and who've had to try and start a new business, sometimes in fields that are completely different to what they've trained in, but they've got families to support and mortgages to pay and all that sort of thing. So if you know someone who's lost a job, maybe they've started a lawn mowing business, or maybe they've started an online tutor business or something like that because they've lost their job, then reach out if you're in a position to employ them, help them, encourage one another with your wallets where you are able to. Only buy from businesses that promote high vibrations, i.e. non-discrimination. In Australia, this is becoming a real issue. We're a very divided society at the moment, a tiered society. I was just talking to a girlfriend this morning who went into her local council because she tried to get some forms online, wasn't able to. She tried to get some forms sent to her via email by talking to the call centre at the council. They weren't helpful, weren't able to. This is Geelong Council for anybody who wants to know. And so what did she do? She went into Geelong Council near Melbourne to try and speak to somebody in person and get the forms that she needed for the house that she's building. And she was told at the counter, we won't serve you because you're not vaccinated. So a hideous state of affairs when the people that you're paying your taxes to in order to be able to receive services refuse to serve you. It's crazy, crazy times. So can I just encourage everyone to promote high vibrations by, where possible, obviously with councils you don't get a choice, but where possible, go to people, go to services, go to cafes, go to shops that do not discriminate and do not get involved in the creation of this dreadful tiered society that is forming. Be kind wherever you can. Smile, encourage, spread love rather than judgmentalism and condemnation and finger pointing. do whatever you need to lift your vibration. Now that might be, well, for me, when I am spinning in anxiety, I will go and read something uplifting. I'll do a short course in something so that I can direct my mental energy elsewhere other than the current stuckness that we're in. I'll chat to high vibrational friends. And, when necessary, I do my FU dance, which gets me out of a state of stuck energy and helps that angry, frustrated energy flow through me in what I consider to be a helpful way. I direct my FU dance energy to the evil entities that are attacking our world right now. And if you're into that kind of thing, it might be a good idea to do a little ritual to make your light invisible to the dark powers at work today in the world. Not everybody's into that kind of spiritual stuff. For those of you, my followers who are like-minded with me, who are, then you can cover yourself in like an energy of invisibility to the evil forces. We want people to see our light and raise our vibration and help the earth's vibration to raise, but we also do not want to be attacked by the evil energies. And so you can do a little rituals to create a shield of invisibility, so to speak. Now, because the times are so dark right now, as I've just illustrated a little, I want to support people as best I can. And I don't really know what I can do other than to reduce my reading prices. In some cases, I've reduced my reading prices by up to $50 off. So I don't know how long I'm going to leave them at these prices. I'm doing this because the world is in such a dreadful state right now, and I just want to offer what I can to people who are confused, who are in a state of anxiety. What's going to happen to me? They might have a singular question to ask about their life, and they just want answers. So I'm offering my readings at discounted prices for I don't know how long, but I'll try to do so for as long as the darkness is being felt. So you can go to my website, guidingstar.astrology.com, if you would like a reading at a discounted price. Now, that's that. And I just wanted to share those feelings and those perspectives. I'm somebody who must do something. I'm a doer, a worker bee. I don't want to sit back and just wait for the tide to turn. I feel that we have to actively build the new societies that are wanting to be formed out of this. And so hence I'm just sharing with you some actions that you can undertake to create a better world, a fairer world, a juster world. Of course, there are many other things that we can do to resist as well. And I encourage everybody to do what they feel led to do, what their higher self is calling them to do, but they're just some practical ideas. Growing your own vegetables, I should have added that as well. Growing your own food where possible, keeping your petrol tank full, and trying to use fuel as little as possible is also a bit of a wise choice to make, looking ahead to the future. But let's look ahead to the eclipse that's occurring at 27 degrees of Taurus on the 19th of November. Now, I'm sharing this eclipse video with everyone. Ordinarily, I share my full moon and new moon reports with my Patreon family only. We go into great depth with each and every new moon and full moon lunation. The December 4 solar eclipse, which is going to be very, very powerful, I will only be sharing that with my Patreon family. But this eclipse on the 19th of November, I wanted to share with my YouTube family as well. If you want to be part of the Patreon community, you can join for €5 a month. And so I'll be taking everyone through the chart of this 27th degree eclipse. And that's happening here where the moon is right there. It's a full moon eclipse, and we're going to be exploring the Taurus full moon. We'll do a ceremony for the Taurus full moon energy, and then we'll explore the nature of the lunar eclipse and its associated Saros cycle. And then I'll be looking at the effect of the eclipse on each sign in this video. Keep in mind, I'm going to explore now the chart of this eclipse, and we are using only 5-degree orbs. There's lots of stuff going on astrologically on the day of this eclipse, but I'm just looking at what is going to be affecting the sun and the moon by a 5-degree orb only. Anything beyond 5 degrees, I'm not going to worry about. But before we talk about the interplay between the planets for this particular chart of the eclipse, I want to talk about the fact that a lot of people are saying, oh, this eclipse is at 27 degrees Taurus, therefore it's with Algol, it's conjunct with Algol, the fixed star in the head of Medusa in the sky. And Algol is known as the evil star. It's an evil star, it brings evil energies. And so there's a lot of panic about this eclipse being so-called in conjunction with Algol. And I just want to allay everybody's fears about that, because this star is actually not conjunct with this eclipse. And I'll show you why. So here I've shared the screen. My screen, this is using Stellarium, a wonderful app that we all love in astronomical and astrological fields. Here, if you can follow my pointer, here is Algol, the star in the head of Medusa. I'll zoom in and show you the constellation in just a second. But before we do, this red line, this is the ecliptic, okay? And this is it running. I've got it kind of at a funny angle. Just ignore the funny angle that I've got it at. I've sort of pulled out as far back as I can to illustrate that on the day I'm recording this, which happens to be the 11th of the 11th, we've got the Sun and Mercury. Here they are sitting on the ecliptic plane, because all the planets, they follow along this, generally speaking, they're around about the ecliptic plane the whole time. Pluto does vary off a little bit. Sometimes we might have the other, that's sitting a couple of degrees off the ecliptic plane here and there. That's okay. But generally, they're all following along this red line. Here we have some of the most heavily populated areas of the sky when it comes to fixed stars. This is sort of the Gemini Taurus area. Gemini sort of area is and Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Cancer, they're all heavily populated with stars. And you can see some very familiar names here. We've got Sirius, we've got Betelgeuse, Capella, Procyon, Arcturus is over here, Vega's over here. So you can see that they're all sort of sitting around this area. There's Canopus. I can always see Canopus through my bedroom window at night. So that's this heavily populated area of the sky. We might zoom in to show it now a little bit more. Okay. It's all upside down. I am in the southern hemisphere, so I apologize for the upside down nature of the bull there. So you can see there's Ceres there, and Uranus is sitting up there on the ecliptic plane. But here is Taurus, the bull, right? Now, here is Algol, and here is Perseus holding the head of Medusa in his hand in the constellation art there. As you can see, Algol is nowhere near the ecliptic plane, because the moon is going to come along here and it's going to sit here on the ecliptic plane to create this eclipse, the full moon eclipse. Now, the interesting thing is there is no star sitting on the ecliptic plane in this realm of the sky. Yeah, there's some big names that we're familiar with, but they're all quite a long way off the ecliptic. So when we talk about fixed stars being on the ecliptic, there's only a handful of them that are. 3 of the royal stars of Persia sit on the ecliptic plane. We might have Speaker as another one. There's only a very small few that actually sit on the ecliptic plane and actually therefore form conjunctions with the with the planets and the moon. The rest are too far away to ever actually form a physical conjunction. So when we talk about Algol being at 27 degrees or 26 degrees rather of Taurus, it's actually a projection that's been made by certain astronomers that have projected fixed stars with certain mathematical techniques onto a degree of the ecliptic plane. So in this case, there is no conjunction, and therefore you don't need to worry so much about what the effects of Algol are going to be with this eclipse, because they're not interacting. So we're all safe from that one. So now that we've laid Algol to rest, so to speak, let's explore the chart of this particular eclipse. Here is the moon up here at 27 degrees of Taurus, and in the eclipse, it's a full moon eclipse. So we've got the moon exactly opposite the sun at 27 degrees of Taurus. Not only that, but we have a trine from the moon to Pluto. Pluto is here in Capricorn, and it's about at sort of 24, 25 degrees there. So there's a trine from the moon to Pluto, and therefore a sextile from Pluto to the sun. That's also playing in to this particular chart. We'll talk about the effects in just a minute. But not only that, we also have a square happening from Jupiter to the moon as well. So, and the sun also. So we've got a T-square formed with Jupiter, moon, and sun, and we've got this cheesecake or wedge shape between Pluto and the sun and the moon also. Now, the Pluto trine, what's that going to bring to this eclipse energy? Well, we might find that our intuition is increased under this influence. Our psychic senses, our sixth senses, the pricking of our thumbs is right on point. So you can trust your gut now with this particular energy. It can give an increased magnetism to us as well, especially if this is interacting with any particular pertinent personal points in the chart. We'll talk about how that effect will play out in just a minute if you do have personal points, but I'm just looking at the chart to begin with. So there can be an increased magnetism if you're being particularly affected by this eclipse. You might be far more desirable now. There can be, well, it's a very helpful energy for your emotions. So there's some support for your emotions coming from Pluto here. Even though Pluto is a very intense energy, it's a beneficial trine to the moon, and so that can give some emotional support. There can be help from powerful women that occurs in people's lives. Not only that's not only coming from this aspect to the full moon eclipse, but it's also part of the Saros cycle that this eclipse is under. Again, I'm going to talk about that very shortly too. There can be strong influences that are coming from other people, because Pluto is this highly powerful, sometimes a bit manipulative energy, but when it's in a positive aspect to the moon, female people in our lives can be very influential and can be very powerful on our experiences now. So that could be your mother, it could be your wife, it could be your daughter, could be a female friend. Female influences are going to be very, very strong. And transformation is a Pluto thing as well. So emotional transformation is very much on the cards under this eclipse energy as well. There could be even transformational changes in your family status, because the moon, generally speaking, represents family. So that could happen as well. And along with the magnetism I mentioned earlier, there could be a positive sexual attraction that unfolds between you and somebody else, either in your life already or someone that you might meet. What about the Jupiter square moon effect? Well, Jupiter hard aspects have the influence generally of overextension, overenthusiasm, over-optimism, overindulgence, and because the moon's involved, we could be over-emotional. We could sort of have an overly emotional reaction to something. Now, Pluto is going to be holding space for our emotions and giving us emotional power, but the Jupiter influence could see our emotions sort of overblown. So expect that it's going to be a heavy-duty emotional time regardless. Yeah, you might have some strength of emotional capacity there to draw on, but things could go a bit bonkers emotionally as well. To be quite honest, I'm feeling into this energy in the ether already, because we are already in eclipse season. I'll talk again about that in just a second, so stick with me. There's a lot of ground to cover for this video. Now, there are positives with a Jupiter hard aspect. You mightn't think that hard aspects do that, but we're talking about the great benefic here. So it can mean that for some people, they will be more fertile under this energy, lots more imagination that's there. There are also the moon is highly manifesting, and when it's in any kind of interaction with Jupiter, we get an increase in our ability to manifest. So this is a highly physically manifesting kind of interaction that these two are putting together for us. Just watch out for big expectations of things that might be unrealistic, the over the top, overblown, over permissive, over expansive kinds of Jupiter energies, exaggerated energies. Realize that your emotions could be exaggerated, as could your expectations. Equally, you might have physical manifestations that go over and above what you thought might be possible. So in that sense, it could prove very positive. But that's the general gist of the energies at play under this full moon eclipse in Taurus. Now let's talk a little bit about full moons. When full moons conjunct natal planets, sometimes we can see that, I'm talking about natal planets in our personal charts, we can see differences in our health, or health issues can become exacerbated under full moons that interact with our chart pertinently. And this can often manifest in one or more of the following ways. So we can get headaches, we can get migraines, we can have a lot of sleep disruptions under a full moon. It's been noted in scientific journals that there is often a decrease in seizures in epileptic patients underneath the energy of a full moon, which is a fascinating study that somebody's done on that topic. There can be an increase in kidney stone pain under a full moon because the kidneys are 60% water. So if you have kidney stones, that can be exacerbated by the influence of the energetic gravitational pull from the moon. We're usually more accident prone under a full moon, so always be careful under this full moon and any other full moon for that matter as well. But we can also we notice that a high number of babies are often born at least 2 days after a full moon. So just as the full moon begins to start its waxing, we get a lot of people going into labor and being born. So there's far more people born under the full moon than there are under the new moon. And as I mentioned in my last video, the new moon, it's difficult. It's a difficult energy to be born under, quite frankly, because the moon is invisible and we need emotions to navigate through life well. So it's interesting to me that the natural cycles of the earth are to see that more children are born under full moons than new moons. Very, very interesting phenomenon. Now, the full moon can make you also feel more bloated and more rounded. Many of us, we tend to hold on to fluids, the fluids of our bodies at the time of the full moon. It's not a good time for going and getting any sorts of injections during the full moon if you can help it at all. We're always a few pounds heavier under the full moon as well because we're hanging on to the water and the toxins and things like that are in our body. But this ebbs and flows with the cycles of the moon. Don't panic. It will pass. You will be able to let those few kilos go. It's also, that said, not a good idea to drink alcohol or eat heavily processed or more toxic foods and medications at the time of the full moon, because as I've just said, these toxic properties will tend to be retained in the system for a couple of days, and really you want them out of your system as quick as you can. So if you have to take medication, be sure and follow this full moon period with a time of detox once the moon begins its waning phase. So just talking on the waning phase, let me explain. So the moon will reach its fullness on the 19th of November, and then it's going to, from there on, over the next 2 weeks, grow smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it meets up with the sun, at which stage will be around 12 degrees of Sagittarius, and the moon and the sun will conjunct to form a new moon eclipse in Sagittarius in 2 weeks' time. But this whole next 2-week period, the full moon the moon rather, is waning, growing smaller and smaller and smaller in its size in the sky, and therefore reducing its influence. It's not its influence. It's a detoxing kind of energy, a letting go, a releasing, a letting out of energy. So what does it mean for the next 2 weeks then? Well, what can we use this energy for in our lives? When the moon begins to wane, as I said, it's growing smaller in the skies. It's a time when the energy is diminishing, and so it's connected to anything that has to do with releasing, letting go, dissolving, and banishing. Full moons are also a time for culmination, finishing things off, ending things. Eclipses, a full moon eclipse is also a big, powerful, influential time in our lives for ending something. So as you can see, the next 2 weeks after this eclipse is all going to be about the letting go of something that no longer is needed in our lives. And the eclipse can trigger that event. But with the waning moon phase, our ability to lose weight is going to be increased. So it's really good if you want to lose weight, to flush out your system with a juice fast or a detox. Our body more easily releases toxins when the moon is waning and easily gets rid of unwanted fluids out of the body. So, do what you need to do to support your body in letting go of stuff under this energy. Go lighter with your foods to support this releasing process. Go lighter with what you're drinking as well to help your body and give it the boost it needs to let go of things. It can be harder to establish and stick to long-term exercise routines now. So it's, you can start exercise routines, but they are unlikely to be for the long term. Better to start a new exercise routine when the moon is waxing, and then it will stick with you for longer. You'll be able to, make it a real habit, and, maybe with you for the rest of your life even. But when the moon is waning, it's more the short-term influence. It's not really going to stick with you for the long term usually. It's also more difficult to gain weight if you're a bodybuilder and you want more muscle mass and more bulk. It's not a good time for working on that. I mean, you can work on it, but you're probably not going to see the results that you would under a waxing moon phase. So for those who like to do so, this is a really good time, the next 2 weeks, to go and, tan under the sun. I'm not talking in a solarium or anything like that. I'm talking about getting out under the sun. If you want to do that, if you're that way inclined, you'll tan in less time. And so you'll stay tanned for longer, and you'll reduce the chances of getting burnt and developing skin cancers and things like that. So a waning moon is also a good time to start an anti-cellulite program, especially with skin brushing, that kind of thing. And why is that? Because it's a good time for releasing toxins. So if you're into that sort of thing, that can be a very helpful way to work with this moon energy. At the new moon, the purification and detoxifying effects in all sorts of therapies are the most effective. So it's a wonderful energy, as I said, to do juice fast, but also to cleanse the skin in some way. Cleanse it on the outside, cleanse it on the inside. Really good time. And it's also a really good time for removing unwanted hair from the body, because it helps the hair to shrink, to grow back more slowly. And so you'll also experience less pain in the process if you're plucking, if you're waxing, if you're lasering. Fantastic. And the closer that you can time these sorts of procedures to the new moon, the better. You'll get better results, have less pain, and stay smooth for longer. So that's the ways that we can energetically work in our lives with the full moon. So I've got to ask, do you have planets around 27 degrees of Taurus where this full moon eclipse is occurring? Well, they're going to be activated now. The full moon and its energy sees the fruition, the culmination of something that we have planted previously. Now, this could have been something that we planted 2 weeks ago under the new moon in Scorpio that occurred. It could have been planted 6 months ago when we had a new moon in Taurus. It could have been planted a year ago when we last had a full moon in Taurus. But because it's an eclipse, and eclipses occur in 18-year cycles, it could be that something that is happening now is a repeat of something that occurred 18 years ago. So where were you 18 years ago? What was happening in your life? What were the big apocryphal moments that were occurring in your world 18 years ago around 2004, 2003, 2004, thereabouts? What were you doing? What was important in your life? What was happening? You could get a repeat of that, or you may also receive a fruiting of something that was established in your life back at that time. So for this eclipse energy, you're going to need to have a planet or some important point in your chart within 2 degrees of 27 degrees of Taurus. 2 degrees, 3 degrees out of push. This can be something that is squaring 27 degrees of Taurus, or opposing 27 degrees of Taurus, or conjuncting. One of my teachers that I admire greatly, she does not use the trine or the sextile angles for eclipse effects. So, take that as you will. Make a decision. If you've got something trining or sextiling, you might, want to pin your hopes on that. That's up to you. But according to my teachers, it's only the hard aspects that will be likely to see results occur. So conjunction, square, or opposition, 2 degrees orb of 27 degrees Taurus, okay? The orb must be really, really tight for true effect to be felt. You know, so if you've got say a planet at, I don't know, 20, 24, 23 degrees of Taurus, it's not really going to be in the ballpark. All right. So if you have the sun within those degrees, you could manifest something now that has to do with your career or how you shine in the world or your confidence. If you have the moon here in these placements, it could be the culmination of some sort of fulfillment of your needs, emotionally, physically, spiritually, materially, and the culmination of some sort of circumstances to do with a home and to do with a family, your family life, or your parenting life in some way could happen because of this eclipse. If you have Mercury here, it could be the culmination of some sort of opportunity for you in trade, in business, or to learn something new or to communicate something to somebody. Venus at this placement could see you manifest new experiences in love or changes in love, or finances could be the result of this eclipse. Mars at these points could manifest courage for a fight or a battle or a court case. It could also indicate the culmination of some sort of desire that you've had in life, the fruiting of some sort of desire that you've had in life, the climax of a desire. And I'm not just talking about sexual desire. I'm talking about, you know, I want to achieve X, Y, Z in the world. I am ambitious for this, that, or the other. Some desire that you have. Jupiter at this point might see you under this eclipse manifest some new alignment with beliefs or new ethics or new morals that really hit home in your life. It will also be possible that this eclipse will leave you feeling larger, more expanded. You might even get opportunity to travel, and you're going to feel more full of joy because of the events of this eclipse if it's occurring with your Jupiter. Saturn. If you have Saturn around here, it could be indicating that there is a culmination in your life of some influence of a hierarchy in your life, or a culmination of structures, or the end of limitations. Let's hope that's the case for the majority of the world. You know, I'm not holding my breath, but it would be nice. But Saturn in your personal life would indicate that it could be the fruition of some limitation, the culmination of some limits that have been placed on your life. There might be a need also with Saturn here for more maturity in your experience now as well. Uranus at this point will be indicating, you know, the manifestation of something exciting and unexpected, but very few people are going to have this because you'd need to be just a little bit. How old would you need to be? You would need to be just under 84 years old to have Uranus at this point. And if I have anybody in that ballpark watching, kisses to you, and thank you for joining me for this. You can expect something exciting and sort of surprising to unfold in your life. Neptune at this point, or around this point, no one's going to have that, okay? Because, nobody will have lived that long to have Neptune at this point. But there might, no, look, I'm not even going to go into it. And Pluto as well. No one's got Pluto at this point, so we don't need to talk about those guys. But, you know, if you other points you might want to look for that might be under the influence of this eclipse, and we're going to talk about the influence of this eclipse very, very soon. You might have your ascendant degree or your descendant degree here, your midheaven degree, your IC degree. Then this eclipse will be potently felt in your life. If you've got any antitia or contra antitia positions here as well, this could be felt very strongly. If you've got any syzygy, asyzygy position here in your chart, and if you don't know what syzygy is, I've got a video all about it. Check it out in my playlists. Fascinating topic. But it could be impacting your life based on this eclipse falling at that point as well. If you've got midpoints here, if you have your Brigabindu point here, then all of these things can indicate some kind of activation unfolding in your life, and it's worth checking out. Now, the full moon, when it's occurring in the sign of Taurus, let's talk about that. Life is reaching this climatic kind of peak now when we have any full moon. But this is occurring now personally and globally in a Taurian way, in Taurian themes. So that might mean that financial issues are now coming to a head in some way. Issues around security and stability in life might be also coming up personally and on a global scale as well. Issues around self-sufficiency. I know that's massive for me also, but let's not go into that. Issues or a desire to connect with nature might be very, very strong in people's lives right now. To be nearer to the earth, or to rurality or provincial life, or to get involved in self-sufficiency or general earthiness. The desire to be grounded is very, very strong. And I think we need to pay attention to this, pay attention to honoring nature, to respecting the earth, etc. What do you value is the question I want to ask when we're looking at the full moon in Taurus. What do you value in yourself and in your life? We will be challenged to reflect on our values now with a full moon in Taurus. What have we been valuing that is no longer relevant, that we think, why did I think that was so important, We will notice where we've fallen short in what is really valuable to us, and we'll also notice where we've been on point with certain values that have been very succinct. For example, I'll give you an illustration. All my life, I have wanted to be self-sufficient, and I have fought and battled and tried to get to that point in my life as best I can. I haven't achieved it to the level that I would like to do, but that's always been a value. And now more than ever, I'm saying, my God, this is why. I think it's like my inner self, my higher self knew that it was imperative to be as self-sufficient in life as possible. And so, we might be weighing up, okay, what have my values been, and how on point are they to where we're at in the world right now? And where have my values been a bit skewed, a bit not on point? We'll be looking at those sorts of things, and this eclipse or this full moon in Taurus is going to trigger the assessment of those components of our life. Now, this full moon could also herald the beginning of energies that are going to be unfolding for the next 18 months. And this is because not long after this eclipse, we are going to see the nodes move into Taurus and Scorpio. Here is the north node of the moon here in Sagittarius. The south node in Sagittarius. It's moving into Scorpio, and the north node in Gemini is moving into Taurus very soon. I'm going to be doing a video on that. So subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on my analysis of what that's going to bring us all. It's like this eclipse in Taurus could actually be instigating what is then going to unfold over the next 18 months when the nodes get into this new zone. Very, very exciting. So do pay attention to what unfolds around this eclipse, because it could be sort of a beacon light for what is about to come up in the world. So now I want to move into doing ceremony for Taurus energy with you. Now, if you're not interested in doing ceremony and getting into that energy space of Taurus, or if you want to come back to this later on when it's the full moon and do this ceremony under the full moon, then by all means do so and skip ahead to where I talk about the energies of the eclipse. That's what we're going to be talking about next. But the point of this ceremony is to create a right energy space. And I do this every month with my Patreon family. We create a right energy space for the full moon eclipse, in this case in Taurus, energies and the intentions that we want to manifest in our life. So join me now. I've got some music in the background. I'll talk about that in a second. But Taurus is an earth sign. And so using earth energies in this particular ceremony is quite important to bring the energy of Taurus in. So you might like to sit outside on the ground or in a beautiful nature space, or if for some reason you need to be inside, create nature inside, a circle of flowers, a circle of fruits or leaves. You might even have some pieces of earth. I have bark from my favorite trees on my little altar in my house. So you can bring earth in. You could use crystals if you want to from the earth as well. Create a circlet or an altar, whatever is your bag. You might like to light some green candles because green is the color of earth and the earth signs. And green, interestingly enough, is known to ease anxiety and stress, which is something that we could all benefit from in this day and age. You might like to wear green clothing as well, or green jewelry in some way. I've got my little green ring here. You might have something similar that you like to wear. I would encourage you to keep your feet bare as well. Even if you're inside, keep your feet bare, and so there's a connection with the ground and your feet. You might like to play some nature sounds in the background as you sit and create this energy space. That would be, birds singing, wind in the trees, raindrops falling, natural sounds. Now, Taurus is actually governed by the planet Venus, the purveyor of music in astrology. Both Venus and Neptune have connections to music. Now, in fact, one of Venus's incarnations is Lucifer as the morning star. And biblical associations would tell us that Lucifer was the angel, or is rather, the angel associated with music. So very fitting that Venus is the planet of music and the Luciferian connections and so forth there. So I have music playing in the background of this meditation or this ceremony, and this is the perfect moon sign, Taurus, full moon, to be using music in the background. So as you gaze into your lit candles on your altar or in your circlet, notice your breath. Breath in through the nose and out. And pay attention to your breathing in and out again. As you do so, tune into your body now. Where does your body feel strong and powerful? Where does your body feel weak? Where does your body feel sore? Mentally, send energy from your strong points to help your weak points. Imagine a revitalizing stream of energy flowing from your strong muscles or organs to your weaker muscles and organs, where your body is a community helping one another to flourish and thrive. Now tune into your emotions. What are they telling you? Where are you feeling strong emotionally? Maybe in regard to your friendships. Maybe in regard to how you value yourself, or the feeling of power that you might have in your life. Where are you feeling emotionally weak now? Maybe with your friendships, or your value for self, or the sense of power you have in your life. Visualize your strong emotional areas supporting and sending helpful energy to those emotions that are weak, and your body as a community of energies can lift one another up to flourish and thrive. Full moon energy is the perfect time to focus on forgiveness where needed. Where is there a need to forgive in your life? Your boss? The grumpy woman at the cafe? Your partner? Yourself? Visualize yourself letting it go, creating space and moving on. In your mind's eye, see your energy expanding now as you let that frustration go. And in doing so, you create more room in your life for love to enter in, for light to enter in, and for your own growth and flourishing. Finally, give thanks for what has reached a culmination in your life now. And in appropriate cases, release what is ending in your life now with a heart of gratitude for what it taught you, how it grew you, and how it helped you to be the person you are today. Release what has culminated, release what has ended with gratitude now. Breathe deeply once more, in and out. And come back to the present moment with a heart of gratitude. Well, thank you so much for joining me for our beautiful meditation there, or our ceremony together. Now we're going to talk about eclipse energies. So we've talked about full moons, we've done full moon ceremony, we've looked at the full moon chart. Now we're going to talk about the eclipse. So eclipses trigger events usually within 1 week either side of the eclipse that's occurring. So 1 week either side of the 19th of November. Although one of my teachers, who I respect very, very deeply, says that we need to consider that an eclipse is active, or the eclipse can fruit for us whenever the sun is within, in the case of a lunar eclipse, 13.5 degrees on either side of the nodes. So what that means is that this particular eclipse, this eclipse season, and its activation can occur at any time when the sun is within 13 degrees of the nodes. Now, the nodes are at 1 degree for this eclipse, and the eclipse is occurring at 27 degrees. So it's a very tight full moon eclipse. But basically, when the sun was at 18 degrees of Scorpio, that's when this eclipse season began, according to this principle. So that was on the 11th of November Australian time, which I think is the 10th of November in the rest of most other parts of the world, particularly in America. So we've been in this eclipse phase. You know, I'm recording this on the 11th of the 11th. By the time it goes up public, it'll be released a few days after that. And we will be already in the eclipse season phase, so things can already have started manifesting because of this eclipse energy. Now, interestingly, just before eclipses actually occur on the day, there's recorded scientifically to be a drop in the electromagnetic emissions of the Earth. Just, seconds before an eclipse happens, boom, the electromagnetic energies of the Earth drop significantly, which is quite fascinating, isn't it? In mundane astrology, which is worldly astrology, global astrology, broad populace astrology, lunar eclipses usually affect the masses because the moon represents the people, whereas the solar eclipses, which are rarer than lunar eclipses are usually visible from up to 50% of the area of the Earth. So more people see lunar eclipses, and solar eclipses are much more pinpointed, and less people will see any given solar eclipse. So that's indicative as well of what I'm talking about here. Lunar eclipses affect the masses. Solar eclipses are much more to do with that sort of 1% of people who are running the show, in charge of things, heading things up. You know, the leadership, the kings, the queens, the people in positions of power, solar, sun, energy, and the moon is everybody. So when we have a lunar eclipse in mundane astrology, we can affect that it's the masses, the general populace that's going to be affected by the eclipse, whereas the solar eclipses will tend to affect celebrities and popular people and people in power. Any changes that come with the lunar eclipse will be caused from the inside out. Why is that? The moon represents our inner world, our inner feelings, and it's when when changes happen in my attitude, in my belief, in my approach, in my emotions, under this eclipse, that is what will cause external changes. You know, we change our attitude, we lift our vibration, better things start being drawn to us, better things start being attracted to us in our life. So it's under that influence, it's time to ask, what have you been feeling lately, especially since we entered into eclipse season? What have you been letting go of in your life since the last lunation in Scorpio? That's going to be very indicative of what this eclipse might bring you externally now. Where have your emotions been? What have you been letting go of? And therefore, what might be now manifesting externally for you under this eclipse? And of course, the new moon in Scorpio was 2 weeks ago. So some astrological texts indicate that a full moon eclipse is felt stronger by people with a nocturnal chart, people who were born at night when the sun had sunk below the horizon. That is when, in charts like that, nocturnal charts, the moon is the more significant indicator than the sun. And so therefore, people with nocturnal charts get impacted by the full moon eclipse more so than the new moon eclipse, which is a solar eclipse. In a full moon eclipse, anything that finishes in your life, anything that winds up in your life will remain finished. It will not come back to haunt you. It is done. You will not go back, which can be good news for some people who are releasing and letting go of things that have really held them down and been a weight around their neck, so to speak. And the energy of an eclipse is actually all about realigning with your purpose and intention for incarnation. The reason that is that the nodes cause eclipses. They're about our karmic past, south node, and the north node's about our karmic future that we are building. So anything that is superfluous to your purpose and intent as a divine energy incarnated in human form will be let go of. You know, if that relationship is not serving you now, maybe it's time for it to go so you can get on the path for your true soul's intent with relationships. If your job is not serving you and not aligning with your values, full moon in Taurus now, maybe this eclipse might let it go, release it from you so that you get on the path of what your true career intent is, and so on and so forth. Now, with that in mind, that we're letting things go and we're realigning with our intent and our purpose when we have these sorts of eclipses, especially when they're connecting with something in our natal chart, it's so imperative for us to act with kindness and forgiveness under these eclipses. I mean, you might be the one somebody else is letting go of out of their life, right? You know, and that's okay. We don't own anyone. I don't own my children. They don't own me. We don't own anyone, and neither do we owe anyone anything in life other than kindness. You know? Okay, I have responsibilities to my children in this lifetime, definitely, because I am their parent and I signed up for that when I had them. But you know, beyond that, when they're adults, when they're out in the world, I owe them kindness and compassion. That's it, you know? And we don't have to, I'm just coming back to the whole ownership of people and obligation towards people, towards jobs, towards houses, towards communities. We don't owe anyone anything. We have to follow our higher self, our intuition, and its guidance forward in life. And that's why I just want to reiterate, be kind to the people that you're letting go of. Be kind to yourself if you're being let go of. Be kind to everyone in your sphere under eclipses. And this includes being kind to yourself if you are struggling with certain issues or certain ideas or certain expectations of yourself. Be kind. It's a difficult energy, eclipses. Even the best of eclipses can have their challenges. And so kindness is an imperative. Now, allow in under an eclipse energy. We need to allow in whatever needs to take place. Don't fight it. Fighting it is only going to make your life miserable. Go with the flow. If something's being released out of your life right now, it's the correct time. The eclipse says, yes, it is time to allow it to go. Now, that can cause it to be a very emotional time. The moon is at its fullest. It's a highly emotionally charged energy to be under a full moon at the best of times, let alone an eclipse. But life's endings also herald new beginnings. So if something is ending, let it end. Let it end. Let it go, because something new is about to start for you. Now, there can be under eclipses some news of big life events that are going to affect you. You might get a piece of news, or something might be revealed, something might be exposed in your life that you didn't see coming. Often there'll be a random event that you didn't expect, especially as this eclipse is falling with the north node of the moon. See, here is the moon and here is the north node in Gemini. They are together. And because of that, the north node, or Rahu, is very hungry. And he kind of carries the energy of Uranus as well. The north node is very Uranus. Neptune has a bit of the energy of the south node, actually. So because this is a north node based eclipse, this will have the effect in some way. Something will still be let go of, but it's going to be very liberating. Uranus energy to do with Rahu. So very liberating for some area of your life in some way, some setting free for you, some guidance back to your truth, back to your purpose here that comes with this eclipse with the north node. So the true character of people can often be revealed under eclipses like this, especially the true character of women in our lives, because it's the moon that is receiving the eclipse. So that might not be pretty. You might discover something about your wife that's really off-putting. You might discover something about your girlfriend, about your daughter, about your mother, that you can be just like, what the? Didn't know that would be a thing. So, true character can sometimes be revealed. Might be a boss, might be a colleague. Pay attention also to all events now that occur, all news, all gossip, all interactions that occur under the eclipse season, because they will indicate important key things for you to notice about your life. Okay, so have your wits about you during eclipse season. Now, if you are a Cancer rising person, or a sun or moon Cancer person, then this lunar eclipse that's occurring is going to be very powerful in your life, because you are ruled by the moon, and it's the moon that is being eclipsed at the moment. So Cancer-oriented people are the ones who generally feel lunar eclipses quite pertinently in their lives, as well as nocturnal. If you've got both, then you're really going to notice it. If you're a night chart with the sun or moon or rising in Cancer, boom, hang on to your hat. Leo people tend to feel the solar eclipses a little more. And if you've got significant planets or rising in one or the other of those, you're going to feel both of these eclipses coming up. But this is a climatic time. It's a peak time. The moon is at its fullest. It's at its largest, its roundest. And so what unfolds now will represent the climax of something that's been building in your life, possibly for quite a while. In some cases, as I mentioned earlier in this video, in some cases since the last set of eclipses occurred in this Saros cycle, which was 18 years ago. Now, Saros cycles I find utterly fascinating. I love exploring them and getting my head around them. So let me tell you a bit about, I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail about the Saros cycles themselves, or else that would take a whole video. This video is going to be long enough as it is. But the Saros cycle, it represents, just briefly, sort of 12 to 1400-ish year cycle of eclipses, a family of eclipses. And I won't go into how and why, but this particular Saros cycle that we are in with this eclipse that's coming up, it began in 1228 and it started on July 18th, 1228. I know you won't remember what happened on that day. You might like to Google it. But it's going to finish on the 19th of August, 2472. So 2472. So it's a Saros cycle that will last all up 1244 years. And so we're just over halfway through this whole cycle of eclipses. We reached the culminating point, which was the halfway eclipse, and now we're sort of coming out the other side through this 1244 year cycle of family of eclipses. And we reached, this is very, very interesting, we reached the peak of this eclipse cycle, the midway point, which is always the most powerful eclipses that occur, are the ones around the midway point of any Saros cycle. And we reached the peak in 1850. Notably, and when I talk about the effects of this Saros cycle family of eclipses, you'll see the link that I'm going to present to you in just a second. But notably, we had a surge around sort of 1800 to 1850 when we had the peak of this eclipse family. We had a surge of the romantic movement, the romantic poets that were there, the Georgian era of, romantic dresses and all that stuff, the Pride and Prejudice and, Jane Austen, Bizot, and all that kind of thing, Brontes and all that. But the romantic movement was very powerful at the time of this peak eclipse. Why is this important to know? Well, this series of eclipses that repeats every 18 years, it carries the energy of the initial eclipse series birth chart. The first eclipse that occurred way, 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 way back in 1228. So we are, this family of eclipses is under the influence of that original eclipse chart, and it will always carry the energy in every eclipse, every 18 years of this cycle, this family. It's going to carry the energy of that initial Saros cycle chart. What did this Saros cycle chart pertain to? It is beautiful. It's a beautiful eclipse family. I'm so pleased to tell you there is nothing to be afraid of with this eclipse cycle. It is great, and it is to do with suddenly falling in love. No coincidences that at the peak of this eclipse family, we had the romantic movement. No coincidences there whatsoever. Everything is cyclical. Everything is synchronistic. Everything links up. This eclipse family might see people suddenly finding their soulmates, suddenly finding their other half, suddenly partnering up with the true love of their life. Yay! Doesn't that sound wonderful? And doesn't that give a bit of hope in our hearts at this very trying period of humanity? And wouldn't it be just perfect divine intervention for us to connect up with our soulmates, let's say, if you're into soulmates, for us to connect up with soulmate energy now when the world is being shattered, so to speak. Because if we look out there, I'm getting on my bandwagon, but if we look out there at the universe, the majority of stars are in a binary system, right? We are more powerful as energies, I feel, when we are working together with people who have our heart, who share our mission, who share our desires and approach to life. So I think one of the key energies that we can utilize to overcome the shit that's going down in the world right now is to link up with the people who are, let's say, the same tree as us. We're branches of the same soul group, same tree. So to link up with our soul family, whether that's in, mostly it will be people falling in love, meeting their soulmates, finding their connections. That is going to be a powerful energetic force to fight the dark energies right now. I'm excited by this. It gives me hope, and it lays my anxiety down just a little to know about that. So back to the other effects of this initial Saros cycle. Well, it is a chart for having dealings with successful women. Now, this was also seen when I talked about the trine from Pluto to the moon. That's another indicator for dealings with successful, powerful women that might be undertaken now under this eclipse energy. So keep an eye out, that might unfold in your life. And also pay attention to female leaders as well, I would say, with this too. Listen to the women's intuition from people in feminine positions of leadership. Not everybody. I have my doubts about Jacinta Ardern, but women, spiritual women. Pluto is this psychic, highly spiritual, shamanistic kind of energy. So those sorts of women in leadership positions in the spiritual realm, I would suggest, rather than the political realm. It's also a chart. This Saros cycle chart is a good chart for associations with colleagues that go well, connections with colleagues that go well, and for heightened intuition. Again, that's the energy of Pluto moon coming into play, but it's also part of the initial Saros cycle chart. So your intuition can be trusted. Listen to your gut. It will provide you with a source of inspiration now. And I hope what I just shared about the binary stars and its reflection now coming back onto the earth, however many percent, I thought it was 60%. I read somewhere the other day that's 80% of stars are in a binary system. We have power to, as representations of stellar energies on Earth, when we are in a binary system with a like-minded partner. But I don't need to labour that point, do I? So I just get excited about winning this battle in whatever way possible. But as you can see, it's a wonderful eclipse series. So don't be afraid of it. Work with it. Be in your energy of gratitude and thankfulness. Ground your Taurus energy, with earth practices and, connection to the earth in whatever way works for you. And welcome in whatever culminates, knowing that it's going to be for your highest good all up. Okay, we've been talking about all these energies for about an hour now. Thanks for sticking with me. Now we're going to have a whiz around the horoscope looking at the general impact of the eclipses, okay? We can expect sudden changes. We can expect good intuition on point. We can expect to see something culminate and reach the end of the road for us. So that's generally what we're looking at. Let's whiz, and it will be a whiz. I'm not going to labour the points too much here. We've gone through a hell of a lot of information already, but what's it going to mean for each sign? Taurus rising, sun or moon, ching, it's in your first house. So this could indicate that a relationship will be changing in some way. This is occurring on your relationship axis. So some change to relationship might be a relationship ending or a relationship deepening and solidifying, falling more in love with your partner could be another way that it manifests for you, Taurus. You'll have a strong intuition about ways to protect yourself, to thrive or survive, which is a very first house type of energy. So trust your intuition guiding you with regard to survival, thrival and flourishing. Also, you might feel an intuitive need to do something about your appearance, to change your appearance in some way, and that might be how this energy plays out. There could be sudden changes in your life that could lead you into undertaking more entrepreneurial endeavors. First house is highly entrepreneurial. It's about initiating, starting something in an independent manner. So if you get an intuitive prompt to do so, listen to that, and you might find that something suddenly changes in your outer circumstances that forces you into making some entrepreneurial and self-sufficient changes. It's a very healing placement to have the full moon in your first house. So there could be some balm that comes into your life, especially as it's such a beautiful eclipse, this one. There could also be some potential to increase your popularity in some way, and it could be through social media avenues, but even just in your community, in your town, more notoriety, more visibility, just being more popular in some manner could be part of what you experience. For Aries, we're going backwards through the horoscope this time, just to mix it up and keep you on the ball. Aries rising, sun or moon people. Well, this is second house energy where the full moon is falling here in Taurus, your second house. And this could see a big change occurring to your value system. Suddenly you're evaluating what is meaningful to you and what is not, and you are letting go of what does not work for you any longer. You could be ending something in your life in order to become more self-sufficient now, in order to bring in some, you might decide that you're going to quit your job and go live in a tiny house out on a rural property somewhere and be more self-sufficient and debt-free. That's the kind of thing that can happen with a full moon energy eclipse. in the second house, especially in the sign of Taurus. I think we're going to see a lot of Aries people boldly take that step forward towards greater self-sufficiency in some way. Even if you don't do that, you might decide you want to get solar panels on your roof or put in a water tank or something. I'd highly recommend that. I think it's definitely time. So it could also be the end of the road for you with regard to some sort of financial situation. That could be you decided to change banks, or you feel inspired to put your money in some other kind of investment that seems more appealing in some way. This could bring you new financial opportunities, this eclipse as well, but mostly because there's a bit of a Uranian impact with the North Node here. It'll be things that you didn't see coming, opportunities that you didn't realize were sitting right there waiting for you all along, and cha-ching, suddenly there they are, bang. So keep your eyes peeled for financial opportunities that could come your way now, Aries, and trust your intuition. Trust your intuition regarding what feels safe, what feels secure. Second house is safety and security. What feels safe and secure to you? Trust your gut about those things now and going into those realms of safety and security. Aries likes to take a risk. Aries likes to live a bit on the edge. We know that. But let's face it, we're all many facets, we're all many parts. There's probably a part of many Aries people that wouldn't mind just knowing that everything's okay, back there. So trust your gut about those sorts of intuitions now. All right, for my beautiful fellow Pisces risings, Pisces suns, Pisces moon people, this is happening in our third house. Here is the full moon eclipse in our third house. So this can bring big changes to our perspectives and our point of views, our mental processing. Our mind is seen through the third house, and this can bring changes we didn't see coming to how we think. We can have big intuitive hunches and psychic downloads. Remember in the intro I talked about how profoundly intuitive and psychic this eclipse is? Trust those downloads. This is happening in a mental house. You'll get all these goosebump moments, these tingle moments where you're like, something, the universe is telling me something. Trust those hunches. Trust those goosebump moments. You might find this is a house of our siblings, but because this is an eclipse connected to women, that it could be a sister or a female neighbor or just a female, sometimes a female friend, but some sort of sibling I feel is more going to be likely to be the case. You might be changing the dynamic of your relationship with your siblings, sisters, female neighbors, etc. There could be possibly a loss of connection here, or a change in connection. It doesn't mean that sister's going to die. It just means things different. Look, I'm already in this zone. I've been having, quite frankly, some issues with discussions with my sister over how Christmas is going to work this year. Oh my goodness, it's so ridiculous and drama filled, and I'm just like, I don't want to be part of all this. But it's been a dynamic that's been at play in the build up to this eclipse season. So, very much on Pisces rising, this is what it's all about. Change of dynamic with some of these people, and maybe a loss of the relationship and the way it used to be, or somebody moves away, or they're just no longer in your life, that kind of stuff. There could also be, for Pisces people, possibly some good news. This is the house of the news, information received, so possibly some good news arriving in your life. Bring it on. I think we're all ready for a bit of good news. And it could also be the end of the road with regard to some sort of small business idea or small business interaction that you had, or maybe you had hired a marketing person and it was time that all wrapped up and concluded. So there could be the end of the road with something to do with business or a skill or a talent under this influence. Now, in ancient astrology, the third house is the natural house of the moon in ancient astrology, and an indicator, if we have the moon sitting in the natural house of the moon, the third house, it's an indicator of priestess energy, and priestesses who were messengers of the gods. This is particularly true if you've got the moon in the third house natally, but because of the psychic nature and the downloads from the divine nature of this eclipse, you guys, Pisces people, you could have a message from the gods for humanity. Maybe it's worthwhile listening to my intro. If you haven't already, go back and listen again. There might be some message from the gods for humanity that's come through me because of this combination. Okay. I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet. I'm just saying that's what this energy indicates in ancient astrology. All right, thank you. Moving on now, we're going to look at Aquarius rising sun or moon. And because Aquarius is a fixed sign and so is Taurus, here we go. Taurus is the 4th house. There could be some sudden changes because of this eclipse that you experience in your family life or family dynamic. This could be your mother, father, aunts, uncles, blah, 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 or it could be in your children and your own domestic family life as well. But it's a very psychic and emotionally intuitive eclipse here for you. You will be very sensitized emotionally, Aquarius people. I would encourage you to trust your intuition now, especially any intuitive hits you get about your family, about your parents, or about where you should live. The universe will be definitely trying to guide you now. It could represent here, this eclipse, the end of the road with some sort of dynamic that you have with a maternal figure. Maybe you're moving away, or maybe your mother changes residences, or it's probably not a falling out because it is such a beautiful eclipse, but it could be a shift in how you are relating to a maternal figure in your life under this eclipse. It's also the end of an era and potentially a new beginning, because when one era ends, a new era starts. A new beginning with a home or a garden or a domestic situation or the lifestyle that you've got. So don't be surprised, Aquarius people, to see this eclipse shift things up in the realm of the home, domestic life, home life, family life, where you're living. A move could even be on the cards for some people, especially if this is in a conjunction with your IC. All right. From Aquarius to Capricorn, rising sun or moon people, the energy of the eclipse is falling in the very lucky 5th house. So Capricorns, you're doing very well out of this eclipse. There could be a change in a dynamic, though, with a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a live-in lover. This is the house of those sorts of relationships. So some may separate now, because we know in general eclipses can bring endings and losses of those sorts of relationships. But because of the nature of the Saros cycle, which I talked about in the intro, it could represent that if one relationship ends, it's because you've fallen in love with somebody else. Do listen to my talk about the Saros cycle to understand why this is very important for Capricorn people. So I'm not saying everybody's going to lose their lover. That's not what I'm saying. Some people will. Some people will go deeper in love with the person that they're with if that person is part of their destiny and their purpose. So somebody new for some people might come on the scene. You might fall in love. If you're single, you might fall in love under this eclipse as well if you're Capricorn. If you find a relationship ends under this eclipse, it is simply because that relationship was not a part of your long-term destiny and purpose. It probably served its purpose at the time and let it go. Now something else wants to come in. There could be unexpected opportunities that come for Capricorn people to show your natural creativity to the world. And if that happens, take it. You might get an opportunity to exhibit in an art show or be part of a theatre production, or you might get offered a film role or something. But your natural creativity is going to be given an opportunity to shine because of this eclipse. Some people also might get lucky and they might win some kind of a prize now. You enter that art show, you get first prize and $1,000 or something, you know, some lovely, lucky, beneficial occurrence that could happen. Now, some women of significance might pave the way for a rise in celebrity status for you under this eclipse as well. Someone might give you an opportunity on their YouTube channel or to exhibit in their gallery. That kind of stuff. We're going to see a woman playing a pivotal role in a rise in popularity in your life under this influence. And again, if you want to know why, listen to the intro. I explain why this is the case. But this is a house of romance. We know this Saros cycle is a very loving one. And so we might find, if we are Capricorn people, that some sort of romantic gestures happen in our life that surprise us, that capture our heart, that take us by surprise. And we might find that there's a lot of people in our lives that are wearing their hearts on their sleeve now. So in that sense, this looks like a lovely eclipse for Capricorn people. If we are Sagittarius, rising sun or moon people, the energy of this eclipse is falling for you in your 6th house. Well, this is a time under a full moon eclipse, we are highly sensitized emotionally. And so Sagittarian people are going to be highly sensitized to the pain of others. The eclipse house is the most malefic house in the horoscope, and according to the Vedic system. And so you're going to be very sensitized to the hurts of other people, the pains of other people, the disadvantages of other people. There could also be some confrontational situations that might arise in your life, Sagittarius, and this could be as a result of frustrations that you're feeling emotionally. So, if you have a confrontational experience, it's going to be coming from within you. Oh, I'm so sick of the way they do that, and why do they keep, why does the postman always leave it in this spot and never in that spot? I'm going to tell him why I'm annoyed. Those confrontational things that are coming from a build-up of emotional tension within you. Now, I wanted to say, if you're Sagittarius, you might need to protect your energy and your vibration now as well, because of the difficult nature of this house. This is a beautiful eclipse, so it's not going to go too heavy with you, but it's still a good idea to have some plans to protect your energy and keep your vibration high. So have a strategy in mind, have an approach. Okay, when I feel like out of sorts, like I'm about to burst like a volcano, I'm going to go for a walk around the spring gardens, or the botanical gardens in town or something, and maybe have a cup of tea and find my equilibrium again. Like, have a plan up your sleeve, Sagittarians. Some people, though, in the positive with this eclipse, because it is a beautiful eclipse and it's occurring in a difficult house, but it could indicate that you might have a win over some sort of health issue. You might find the answer you've been looking for. You might find the medication that's going to heal you. You might meet a practitioner who changes everything. Go and see an acupuncturist, and suddenly your life is like you feel like you're 12 years old and full of beans again. So it could be very, very helpful in that regard. You might also have a win over some sort of court issue or against a difficult person that you've been battling with, maybe at work or in your home or just in your everyday life, battling with someone, going head to head with someone, and there could be some kind of climatic outcome or victory that comes out of this. So yay! In that sense, it could prove very worthwhile for you. The end of the line has come with a lot of the yucky things in your life. Eclipse in the 6th house of yucky things. So there could be also a change in circumstances, perhaps with a pet or an animal, family pet or an animal in some way. Something might shift and change with the dynamic of that relationship. Alrighty, for our beautiful Scorpio friends, we've got the energy of this eclipse falling in the 7th house. Boom. What does this mean for you? Well, it means it's on the relationship axis that this eclipse is occurring. So relationships that have been working well could see a shift in the dynamic, and it takes you more into the positive, more in love. Remember, this Saros cycle is one for falling in love. You could fall more in love with your partner if the relationship is one of soulmates, is one of destiny, is one of like, yeah, we're meant to be together. You'll fall more in love with them. If you're single, you could find that this eclipse brings in a new relationship in your life that is life-changing, profoundly life-changing. If you're in a relationship that has been strained, it very likely could break apart under this energy, this influence, because maybe that's not your purpose and not your destiny to be in that relationship. If that's the case, if you don't break apart because of this eclipse, you might find that all of a sudden you're walking on eggshells more than ever with a difficult relationship. And then you've got to ask yourself, is this relationship really the one for you? Is it really right for you? Does this relationship, even though no relationship is perfect, overall, is this relationship helping you vibrate at a higher level, or is it totally dragging you down to the depths? You might have to evaluate your values, Taurus, on that right now. So it can, as I said, can indicate sudden falling in love with somebody new. And, ordinarily I mightn't go into so much of this with an eclipse energy because it doesn't always herald that. But this is an eclipse cycle for falling in love. So very strong chance for that, especially if you have other triggers at play in your chart. If you want to know if you do, don't forget to go and book a relationship reading with me, and I can tell you if you've got enough triggers happening in your life to bring in a new love. So this can also indicate this eclipse, that you could have successful outcomes from court cases or negotiations with lawyers or any kind of business negotiations or interactions, or just negotiations and mediations with people in general can be very positive and in your favor. Yay! All right. Thank you, Scorpio. Now to my lovely Libra and rising sun or moon friends. The energy of this eclipse is falling in your 8th house. What does this mean? Well, 8th house moon and 8th house eclipse, amazing intuitive downloads. And this is because this Saros cycle and the aspects from the planets all indicate that as well. Libran people, you are in full psychic mode, right? So trust those goosebump moments, trust those premonitions, listen to the prophetic insights your soul will be receptive to now. Trust your inner knowing. It will not lead you astray. This is, as I said in the Saros cycle piece of the introduction, some women are going to be very prominent in your life right now, and they will be a source of healing for you. It might be a mother figure. It might be a friend. It might be some sort of a guru or guide person, but some woman is going to be powerfully important in your healing now. Now, this is the house of phenomenal change, big 180-degree turns around. And when an eclipse falls here, get ready, your life might turn around 180 degrees, Librans. So it's a big season of change that we are in here for you, a time of rebirth and a time of regeneration for you. Your life is about to change in quite a remarkable way. It's the end of the line with one way of being for you. You're about to enter into a whole new phase of life. So it could indicate being very emotionally up and down. Very likely to be the case, actually. And you will have been in this state, I think, for the duration of the eclipse season. So sort of from the 11th of, I know this has been the case for me, and I'm a Libra moon, definitely the case. I've been in a state of high anxiety and emotional since the eclipse season began on the 11th of the 11th. And we're really going to need to guard our energy, to guard our emotions, and to ride it out as best we can. So Libran people, because we're so highly sensitized with this placement, have a strategy to keep your balance, to be kind to yourself, and to navigate this with as much gentleness to the soul as you can, because it is going to be a very emotionally charged eclipse for you. Thank you, Libra rising sun or moon. Virgo rising sun or moon people, this eclipse is falling for you in the 9th house, Taurus. And so this could indicate the end of the line with some old outdated belief system that you've had, something you may have been carrying around with you since childhood. Something might happen in your life that says, time to broaden your horizons, time to change your ethics, time to change your morals in some way. So don't be surprised if something occurs that changes your perspective completely. You might have had connections to other cultures in some manner. Maybe you were doing some international trade or had some international clients or something like that. Maybe you were planning to travel to another country, or there was a strong influence of another country in your life in some way. That might be reaching its culmination now, reaching its ending, reaching its conclusion. Also reaching its conclusion might be some sort of relationship dynamic that you've had with a teacher or an inspirational figure, or even a father figure might be sort of wrapping up. Maybe not a literal father, but a father-like figure, mentor-y kind of person. Could be reaching a conclusion for one reason or another. Now, this is the house of divine knowledge, the 9th house. It's the luckiest house in the horoscope. So there is this heightened intuition that is available to you under this eclipse. I've said this for a few signs that have to do with the sort of mental energy and the divine spiritual energy. And that's the case for you guys. Trust your hunches, trust your intuition. It's the divine trying to get through, trying to guide you and put you where it needs you to be as a part of your destiny and your mission and your purpose. 9th house is about our purpose. 9th house is about our truth, and trust the guidance that you're getting that's going to lead you to your purpose, your mission, and your truth right now. You might also, under this energy, you might suddenly fall in love, my beautiful Virgo friends, with somebody from a different culture. Remember, this is the house of different cultures, and this Saros cycle of eclipses is all about falling in love. So it could be that, you fall in love with somebody who becomes your partner from a different culture. But it could be that like I think one of one of my soul family is definitely my best friend. And in a sense, I'm not ashamed to say this, in a sense, I'm in love with her because I look at her and think, I love who she is. I love what she represents. I love the energy that she brings to my life and how she makes me feel when I'm with her. And I know the feeling is mutual. It goes both ways for us both. So in a sense, that's a falling in love. This is not a house of friendship, but, this meeting somebody from maybe a different culture who feels like a soulmate, friend, lover, child, inspirational person, whatever. There is this energy of meeting your soulmates, meeting your soul family under this influence. And that could certainly happen for you with somebody who's from a different cultural background to your own. Thank you, Virgo. Okay, Leo, rising, sun or moon people. The energy of this eclipse is falling, kaboom, in your 10th house and possibly for many of you on your midheaven degree. So this is also a parental axis. So there might be some changes that come out of this eclipse in the lives of one or more of your parents, maybe both of your parents. But particularly this house in certain schools of astrology does tend towards the father. So potentially there might be issues or losses that are associated with the father, like dad might move away or might change jobs, so you see less of him because he's busier now, that sort of thing. But there also could be potential issues or losses in a similar manner with your mother-in-law. This is the house of the mother-in-law. So that could also be the case for many Leo people. Some dynamic there changes. Now, potentially, some sort of significant, powerful woman or female authority figure might catapult you into greater worldly success and recognition under this eclipse. So, if you've got a female boss, they might give you an opportunity for a promotion, or, you might go to court and there's a judge there and they've got a female judge, they've got a position of power. They might hand you the win in court, and suddenly that catapults you into a greater status because you win a divorce proceedings or something like that. Not that the 10th house has to do with court cases. I'm just saying a female authority figure could be the one to catapult you into greater success in some way in the world. And I just used the divorce courts as an illustration of a female authority figure. So you get the drift. So this could generate, also this energy of this eclipse could generate some sort of new leadership position for you. But it might also indicate that there is something reaching its culmination, something ending in your life in order for that to happen. So it's the end of the line for you in some way with doing your career or obtaining your success. You're going to do it in a different way going forward from here. And you might even discover the career of your dreams under this eclipse, something that you just love and that really starts to work well for you. There's also a heightened sensitivity to your public image and your reputation now under this eclipse. So watch out for gossip or difficult news that is circulating maybe about your status or your reputation in some way. Keep your ears and eyes peeled for that kind of stuff going on. All right, Cancer rising, sun or moon people. Boom. We are seeing the eclipse occur for you in the very auspicious 11th house. Very nice, Cancer. So this is indicates a changing dynamic with friends. Some friends might be leaving your life now, but don't fret, because this is creating energetic space for new friends to come in. You're letting go of the old, the outworn, the stuff that's not taking you into your purpose and your mission, and you're making room for the new friends to enter in. This could also be the end of the line with regard to some of the goals that you've set for yourself in life, and you're about to change your goals. You're about to change the goalposts and where you're kicking that football. So you might be throwing out all your old ambitions now and creating a whole set of new ambitions based on some sudden inspiration or intuitive download that you receive under this eclipse. So have that journal, that book that you note down all your goals and dreams in handy for the next couple of weeks. Now, it could also indicate the end of the line or some change in dynamic with an older sibling. This is the house of the older sibling, so there might be some change in your relationship with an older sibling in some way. I feel with this energy you're going to encounter the right people at the right time, probably a woman or someone with a lot of feminine style energy who will help you with your dreams and goals. That's another of this eclipse's combinations. And they're going to help you generate more gainfulness in your life. You might meet this person now under this eclipse season and activation energy, or you might already know this person, but interactions during this eclipse season are going to prove very financially lucrative and fruitful for you through that influential person. Fun! Sounds good to me, Cancer. All right. Gemini, rising, sun or moon, and thank you for waiting till last, Gemini. We have the eclipse falling in the very mystical 12th house for you. Whoa, now hang on to your hats, Gemini. This is an energy of great psychic downloads that's going to be coming your way with this eclipse. They could blow your mind. It's a highly prophetic combination, especially with all the aspects and so on being formed with this eclipse. Don't discount anything that comes through to you now in a psychic sense. Expect that you will get guidance in your dreams and your daydreams and with any visions that you have. It's the end of the line for many Gemini people with something from their past. An old habit. This is the house of the past. Old habits, old beliefs, old behaviors, maybe even some sort of childhood trauma or psychological wound. It's time that that's going to go, dissolve, be released and let go of. Yay! Very powerful time for letting go, both consciously and unconsciously. This is the house of the unconscious. So expect that is what's going to be happening. You might go through a bit of a purging process, even, like I said, subconsciously. And often when we do that, our body purges. So some Gemini people will get, the runs, if you want to be really gross about it. That can actually happen as the body releases the toxins of the soul as well. That's an actual known correlation. The body tunes in with what's happening to us psychically a lot of the time. So to deal with this energy, Gemini, you might need to isolate in some way, take time out, tap out for a bit, because the energies are heightened. So take time to rest, to sleep, to escape in ways that are healthy and enjoyable for you. And for some lucky, blessed Gemini people will also experience some sort of miraculous healing now. So the divine touches your life in some way under this energy, and you are never the same. You never go back. Under eclipse energies, you never go back. So whatever miraculous healing occurs in your life, it's going to stick with you for the rest of your days. What an exciting eclipse energy to be a part of. Well, thank you one and all for sticking with me for this rather long video, but I felt it was worth exploring all the bits and pieces of this fabulous eclipse that's coming up. I hope it's a joyous one for everyone, and I'll catch you next week with more astro news and weather.